Can you guys hear me now? Hi, everyone. I am so sorry. Pardon me for the technical hiccup. Okay, so let's start from the beginning since everyone can hear me now. I am so embarrassed. Okay, so let's start over since no one heard anything. So, my name is Emily Weiskopf, and I work at an organization called Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. We are coming to you this evening via the Decatur Public Library, and I'm here with an attorney from our office named Tiffany Kilgore, and she is going to talk to everyone this evening about expunctions and non-disclosures for eligible criminal records. But first, I am just going to go over a little bit about our organization, how we help people, what we do, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany for the whole reason that everyone else is here this evening. So, who we are Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. As you can tell by our name, we help people all over North and West Texas. So we're a nonprofit organization, and we help people with their civil legal needs. We have a pretty large service area with 114 counties in it. So here's a map of our organization. As you can see, we help people all the way from Amarillo to Midland, Odessa, all over DFW. So our Denton office is that little purple corner over there. And we, Denton is kind of where our home office is, but we also assist folks in Cook County, Denton County, Jack County, Wise County, and Montague County, obviously. So here we go. So what do we do exactly? So we provide free civil legal services. So what exactly does that mean? So we help with a variety of issues that affect all kinds of people. So we help people with estate planning needs. We help people with tax issues. We help people with their public benefits like Social Security, disability, with their SNAP benefits, Medicare and Medicaid. And we also help people with their housing issues, whether that's foreclosures, evictions, landlord-tenant disputes, public housing vouchers. And then we also help people with consumer protection. And we also did a really great presentation with the library earlier during the COVID-19 pandemic that you can find, I think, on their Facebook page, all about consumer protection. It's full of a lot of great information that I would suggest everyone arm themselves with. It's applicable whether there's a pandemic or not. And so anyway, we also help people with disability issues. We help people with their family law needs. And then we've also been obviously responding a lot to COVID-19 because a lot more people have been eligible for our services. So I'll get into eligibility for our services in a minute because we do exist to help the lowest income and the neediest Texans. But there are some things that we just aren't able to offer assistance with. We can't help people with medical malpractice claims, personal injury cases, class action lawsuits. And then we also just unfortunately can't assist with assisted suicide or abortion-related litigation. And then we also don't help people with criminal law matters. Now, the one exception to that kind of being why we're all here tonight, which is to talk about expunctions and non-disclosures. And I'm sure Tiffany can explain a little bit more eloquently than I can why we're able to assist people with that and not other criminal law matters. But basically, it's just because it's administrative. But anyway, that's not really important. We just can't really provide representation in criminal law matters. So anyway, eligibility. So what does it mean to be eligible for services at Legal Aid of Northwest Texas? So to be eligible, you have to be income eligible, which means that, we want to make sure that the people who are receiving our services are people who financially really need it, who wouldn't be able to obtain legal representation any other way because they couldn't afford it. We have to make sure, too, that people are asset eligible, that people don't have a secret bank account with $150,000 in it that they could use to pay for an attorney, right? Then we can only help U.S. citizens. Sometimes we can help people with other qualifying legal statuses, and I'll get into a little bit more of that later. And then we have to make sure that, the people contacting us have an issue that we can help them with. So, what does it mean to be income eligible for the purpose of receiving services through our organization? And you can actually look at this chart that we use. It's not secret information, it's available on our website right here. And basically, it's just someone who's within 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. And so we look at a lot of different things whenever we consider that. So I don't want anyone to get too caught up in numbers or anything like that. It's just something that's really good to look at. So you make sure that you're using your time wisely whenever you're looking for help, right? And then asset eligibility, we just want to make sure that, people don't have some liquid funds that they could use in order to hire an attorney. We want to make sure that the people who are really financially qualified and really financially in need of our services are able to obtain those services. So for citizenship, we can't provide legal services to someone who doesn't have a legal status. So you have to be a citizen or you have to have some other legal status to be in the country. The one exception that we do have for that is that we are able to provide legal assistance in domestic violence matters. So we can help individuals with litigation related to that domestic violence. So like maybe helping a survivor obtain a divorce from someone who's been abusing them, the person who's been the perpetrator of the abuse. And these are just some examples of priorities or, just different things that we are able to assist people with at our organization. So I already touched upon consumer protection and finances. You can learn more about that on the library website. We also help, individuals with special education needs and access to resources. I've already talked about family law, but we do a whole lot of family law cases. We try really hard to keep families together and protect survivors of domestic violence. We also help people with housing issues, especially a lot lately. There's another really great presentation that an attorney from our office did that's available on the Decatur Library, I think their Facebook page, all about housing kind of protections that were in place during COVID-19. Obviously, those have lapsed and stuff like that, but I think it is, good information to go look at, and just keep in mind that we can help people with a lot of housing issues. We also help people, like I said, with their health benefits and income maintenance. So making sure that people are able to get to a job if they need to, making sure that they can maintain unemployment and provide for themselves and take care of themselves. So whenever you apply for services, I guess it can seem a little intimidating, but it's really just nice and streamlined. So we're able to evaluate everyone and extend services to as many people as possible, because we do have a lot of people applying for our services and we want to help as many people as we can. So there's a lot of different ways that you can apply for our services. You can call our office. There's a slide at the end with all that information. You can call our home office in Denton and talk to our wonderful receptionist who will get your information, qualify you, help you do an application over the phone. You can call our legal aid hotline, which is a hotline that's staffed in our Dallas office by wonderful attorneys, and they can answer your questions. I'll also provide you with that number in just a little bit, or you can do an application online. So there's a few different ways that you can apply for services through our organization. So after you apply for services, after we make sure that you're eligible, that there's not a conflict of interest, that you have something that we would be able to help you with, what we do is we do a more in-depth intake interview with the individual and ideally one of our staff attorneys, so we can get a better idea about what this person's trying to accomplish and what exactly it is that they need help with, and if we'd be able to help them. And then every one of our cases is reviewed by the staff attorneys in our office. You'll definitely meet one of those attorneys later. Her name's Tiffany. I've already said that. And then our managing attorney, our boss, also reviews the cases. And then obviously we can't provide full representation to every person that comes into our organization. One, because not everyone needs full representation, right? And two, because we just have a huge volume of services. But we always try and provide some meaningful level of service to people, regardless of if that's good legal advice, helping people prepare pleadings, helping people with pro se documents, or sometimes whenever we can, representing people to the fullest extent possible. So all of our offices are temporarily closed right now because of COVID. So even though they're closed, you can still contact us through our website. Here's the phone number for our Denton office right here, LANWT.org, LANWT.org. You can find all the different offices, all the different phone numbers, all the different clinics that we offer, not just from our office, but all the different offices all over our service area. So, maybe if you are in Grayson County or something like that, that's just something else to consider. And then our legal aid line has extended hours because of COVID-19 and just because the huge volume of people that are coming through. So keep that in mind too. It's another just good way to get some access to information and also apply for services. And then we've got resources that are available, COVID-19 resources and just other topics that we cover. We have a YouTube channel. They just put up a video covering the new CDC eviction moratorium. If you have questions about that, I would encourage you to check that out. And then there's resources on our organization's website as well, specifically for COVID-19, but a whole bunch of other stuff. Covers all kinds of areas that you can see right here. And then obviously the library is a wonderful resource. They can put you in contact with our organization, with materials that we have. And then, as I've mentioned a couple times throughout this presentation, we've recorded other presentations at the library. And I would encourage you to check those out because it's free information that's valuable and good for everyone and meant to educate the community. So it's just another resource that is there. So we do also offer what we call virtual legal clinics in place of maybe in-person clinics. So I've listed the 3 dates that we have coming up for Wise County for the rest of the year. So you just call our office, let us know that you're interested in participating in this clinic. We'll make sure you're eligible, qualify, get your information, and then we'll pass it along to an attorney so we can get you a consultation ideally to talk about maybe a legal issue that someone is having or that you're having. So just information to keep in mind. We're there to help you if you need it. And so at that note, I'm going to wrap it up and pass it over to Tiffany. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Sorry about the tech hookup. I'm sorry, hiccup in the beginning. And sorry for misspeaking there. So thank you guys so much. Sorry about the tech hookup. I'm sorry, hiccup in the beginning. Sorry for misspeaking there. So thank you guys so much. Sorry about the tech hookup. I'm sorry, hiccup in the beginning. Sorry for misspeaking there. So thank you guys so much. The tech hookup. I'm sorry, hiccup in the beginning. Sorry for misspeaking there. So thank you guys so much.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm not sure if we have a little feedback loop going here. You got to love working remotely. But I am here to speak with you guys about expunctions and non-disclosures. Particularly, this is relevant during COVID, since so many of us are having difficulties with job loss. I'm Tiffany Kilgore. I'm with Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. I've been with Legal Aid of Northwest Texas for about 5 years. I've been a practicing attorney here in Denton County for about 15. And during the 5 years that I've practiced in our Denton office, I have been fortunate to practice in Wise County and have very much enjoyed the attorneys and the judges and the community there and enjoy getting out of Denton. Why would you need one? When you do that criminal history check, it's going to affect your ability to obtain a job, to apply for an apartment, to get government housing, to get various types of benefits, and also to get various licenses for employment. What is this? What's the difference between an expunction and non-disclosure? An An expunction is going to actually erase the charge. It's going to be applicable in situations where maybe you got arrested, but the DA never actually charged you with anything, or maybe you went all the way through to a jury trial and they acquitted you. Well, you don't want that arrest following you around. And the arrest, even if there's no conviction, does show up on your criminal history record. An alternative, if you aren't able to get an expunction, is a non-disclosure. When we talk about expunctions, we're talking about erasing things. When we talk about non-disclosures, we're talking about sealing things. And I am just trying to get you guys a little better view here. All right, I'm just going to continue on, and you guys can listen if the slides aren't showing up very well. Ideally, you would want an expunction, but if you aren't able, if you did go ahead and go through the process and ended up with a deferred adjudication sentence, then you might be eligible for a non-disclosure. A non-disclosure is going to seal off those records. A general employer, someone from the public searching the criminal history records with DPS is not going to be able to find that conviction. In some certain cases, law enforcement will still be able to see it. That expunction, however, will be literally destroyed. Not even the state will see it. Do you qualify for an expunction? There's several situations where you would be able to qualify for an expunction. The one I mentioned earlier, maybe you were arrested, but they never ended up filing the case, but it's still showing up on your record. Maybe it was the first time you had gotten into any trouble and the prosecutor offered you pretrial diversion. You know, go take a drug education class, do some community service, and I'm willing to dismiss it. I also mentioned before, maybe you went all the way through a trial and you were found not guilty. That acquittal is going to make you eligible for this expunction. My husband thought this was funny. Perhaps Governor Abbott pardoned you. I know that Tiger King might get a pardon. If you were pardoned, you're eligible for an expunction. Usually, you're only eligible if the case was dismissed or if you were never charged. There's a couple of special exceptions. If you got a Class C ticket, something punishable by a fine only, and you took deferred adjudication, you can get it expunged. In addition, if you're in a specialty court like a veterans court or a drug court, where you have been able to go through a special program that's more rehabilitative in nature, if you graduate successfully from those programs, you also qualify for an expunction. Now, if you're just trying to get that arrest off your record because the DA's office never went forward with it, you might have a waiting period. Still trying to get me to get you guys a better view here. Not working. So for those Class C tickets, if you never got if it was never dealt with in court, you have to wait 6 months until you can get that expunged. On those misdemeanors, as long as there wasn't another felony charge in that same arrest, you have to wait a year before you can take care of it. And then finally, for the felonies, that's going to be 3 years. There are a couple of exceptions. And that's the one that I was actually kind of starting to speak about. Let's say you got arrested and the police officer put a few things down. let's say the police officer said, well, you were speeding and I found drug paraphernalia in your car and you got a DWI. Well, let's say that they never went forward on that drug paraphernalia charge because they just thought maybe they didn't have the evidence. Well, if they don't move forward on the drug paraphernalia charge, but they get you for DWI, unfortunately, none of those three offenses can be expunged. Another exception, if you jump bail, if you abscond from the jurisdiction, try to run, unfortunately, you won't be able to get that expunction. And finally, if you are able to get that expunction, what is the outcome? It's the outcome that we want. You're filling out that job application, you're filling out that lease application for an apartment. You can say that the offense never happened and that there is no expunction order and you don't know what they're talking about. There is one exception. If you end up testifying in a criminal proceeding, you do have to state that the matter has been expunged, and that's all that you have to say. Will my erase truly be erased? Unfortunately, it will not. An expunction order binds government agencies. It also binds private companies like publicdata.com that sell criminal history information if you served them with your petition. There could still be a mention of your arrest in a newspaper. There might be a mention online somewhere. And while there are some protections where you can try to sue people civilly, it's not very effective. Still don't know how to put it in prisoner view, y'all. So what about non-disclosures? The expunctions, of course, are what we want. Well, maybe you aren't in a position to do that. Let's see. All right, folks, I'm just going to talk like we used to talk before we needed technology to present, and ignore my folks here trying to get me some technical assistance. So the non-disclosure, do you qualify? So there's a few reasons that you can get an order of non-disclosure. That most common reason is going to be that you've gotten deferred adjudication on an offense, you've completed it successfully, and at the end of that, that judge has signed a dismissal of your charge and discharged you from your deferred adjudication. Now, you can't have gotten in trouble for anything after that. The whole point is you made a mistake, you get a second chance, turn things around. You can't get one for everything. There are some things that you just can't get a non-disclosure for. You can't get one for some violent offenses, crimes against children, family violence, stalking, human trafficking. What this is put in place for is people who've made a minor one-time mistake, and we can see if we can get that changed around for you guys. Like I said, the most common type is when you've received deferred adjudication. If you're getting a deferred adjudication non-disclosure, you can file immediately if you had certain types of misdemeanors. If it is kidnapping, assault, family violence, misdemeanors related to those families of crimes, you would have to wait 2 years from the date that you're discharged from deferred before you can go ahead and petition for that non-disclosure. And during that time period, you would, of course, not be able to commit any new crimes or be convicted or placed on deferred for any new crimes. Finally, if you were on deferred adjudication for a felony, you do have to wait for 5 years after they discharge you from deferred. Now, if you get a fine-only ticket during that time, it's not going to prevent you from getting that non-disclosure. Now, expunctions are not discretionary. If you qualify under the statute, you get it. In most of our non-disclosures, they're at the court's discretion. The court has to make a determination that the issuance of the non-disclosure order is in the best interest of justice. What does that mean? It means pretty much whatever the court wants it to mean. I'll give kind of a dumb example. If you're testifying at your non-disclosure hearing and let's say you're getting a non-disclosure for a public intoxication offense, and the judge wants to know if you've been drinking over the past 3 months, and you say, oh yeah, I had a great time at my friend's party last night with a bottle of vodka. If the judge doesn't think that you're taking this seriously, if the judge doesn't think that you've affected change, they do not have to sign it. That non-disclosure, by the way, is going to be filed in the court that heard your underlying criminal offense. So I hope you didn't offend the judge the first time around. There are some special situations for first-time offenders, and I won't go into all of them. There are also some other special situations where you can get a non-disclosure if you are a victim of human trafficking and that's the only reason that you did your crime. You can get a non-disclosure. But in general, if this is the first time that you've ever been convicted or the first time that you'd ever received the sentence of deferred adjudication, depending on what misdemeanor you were charged with, you do not have to meet that best interest of justice requirement. There are a few cases where you get what we call that automatic non-disclosure. So that judge can't say, I don't think you're taking this seriously. Although generally non-disclosures are only available when you've gotten deferred. If you are a first-time offender, you might still be able to get it if you took straight probation. Even if you had to do shock probation, even if you had to do 30 days in jail before you completed your sentence or completed your probation. Finally, this is almost unheard of. The legislature did several things in 2017 and tried to really give people some options. You can get a non-disclosure of a DWI if you've never had any prior convictions, if you've never had any prior sentences of deferred, as long as you didn't have a wreck that resulted in an injury of a person, you can get non-disclosure, and you only have to wait for 2 years after your probation is completed if you had an interlock device on your car for at least 6 months, and then you have to go ahead and wait 5 years without a subsequent conviction if you didn't have that interlock in your probation. Much like the expunction, what do I tell my prospective employer? You are not required to state that you have been the subject of any criminal proceeding related to the non-disclosure. Now, I will tell you to read those applications very carefully. Some employers have gotten crafty and have tried to phrase their questions in such a way to kind of get around non-disclosures and expunctions. But the government code states that you do not have to tell them that you've been the subject of a criminal proceeding. And again, much like the expunctions, is it going to be totally erased? No, it's not. With our digital footprints, there are websites like mugshots.com that try to abuse the system and try to kind of go around these laws. Unfortunately, there is not a very strong federal law that protects from these kind of predatory websites. And although there is some civil liability in Texas for certain groups of people publishing mugshots, criminal orders that have been expunged. We have not had very much success in curbing that. So some advice that I have seen, and I don't know how useful it is to make yourself very prominent in your Google search. Put yourself on other things on the internet so that maybe when they search your name, that criminal record is going to fall down to the third or fourth page, and maybe not on that first one they see. Of course, unfortunately, that won't do any help if they do, Google your name plus mugshot. But the non-disclosures and the expunctions will definitely clear up that official record from DPS when people are asking for that criminal background check. The process does not take very long. Within probably 2 or 3 months, you would be in a position where you could start interviewing with that clear criminal record. And Emily mentioned before, she said, how do you apply for help from us? You can call our local office. That's the best way to get our help. And since apparently I have this teeny tiny slide on our screen, I will let you know that our local phone number is 940-383-1406. Maybe the easiest way to get our information is to go to www.lanwt.org, like Legal Aid Northwest Texas. If you'd like to apply online, you can click on Get Help up at the top of the screen. In addition, we do have legal aid line attorneys that are available to speak with you immediately if you call between 9 and 4. They are great to speak with in an emergency. They are attorneys that have a broad general knowledge of lots of subjects. If you don't have an emergency, I would encourage you to go ahead and call our local office to speak with a Denton attorney that covers Wise County, who can give you some information specific to your non-disclosure and expunction. And at this time, I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions. I appreciate y'all for joining us tonight, and I apologize for all of the technical difficulties.